Thank you, Kim, for that introduction. I really appreciate it. I'd like to first read a disclaimer. Information presented is for educational purpose only and is not intended as and may not be relied upon as tax, legal, investment, or other advice. Pensco performs the duties of a custodian and as such does not evaluate, recommend, or endorse any particular investment opportunity to a Roth and make the investment using that Roth in order to get the tax gain from that potential multiple X return investment. So you can minimize the amount of taxes that would be paid on exit. All right, moving on. Growth strategies with self-directed IRAs. What are some of the things that I can invest in? Well, as stated a little earlier, private equity investments in IRA tend to always make sense. Essentially, what can I choose from? Limited liability companies, LLCs, as well as limited partnerships, LPs, private common stock, preferred stock, options, rights, warrants, private hedge funds, fund of funds, convertible notes, and more. As you can tell here, there's as we're speaking about a little earlier in the presentation with respect to 40,000 unique assets, you can see where how flexible and the types of options that are available to you when using a retirement account. Private equity investing in crowdfunding. This is a very interesting space right now in the sense that with the Jobs Act, as well as new technology entrepreneurs, there's been this new access, if you will, to these non-traditional assets that have not been made public and have typically been held to the good old boy type of network. Well, crowdfunding is changing that altogether, as well as changing the way people raise money in the sense of not using as many VC firms and looking at different ways to raise capital and still retain as much ownership of their own entity and control of their own entity while still getting resources from their partners. Using IRA funds to provide financial backing for small startups or entrepreneurs has been increasing as we progressed it with respect to our advertising of the did you know that you can actually do this. Most folks don't even know you can do it. So as they know, it's kind of a no-brainer, and people are jumping on board immediately. The other half of it is with the democratization and access, that's also brought the ability for investors to diversify across multiple asset classes with smaller participation limits, where you used to have to put $250,000, $500K, $1 million to have access. Well, that's changed pretty significantly now. And now you have the ability to participate at smaller levels and still be able to participate in these potential high-yielding investments. The growth of crowdfunding platforms make it easy to find your next deal. The national accreditation currently being reviewed by the SEC, and several states have enacted intrastate crowdfunding, and many more are still considering it. Very interesting space. There are a number of benefits of private equity investing. Private equity investments in IRAs have grown increasingly prevalent for several reasons. Number one, the potential for higher returns. Over the past 10 years, average private equity returns have nearly doubled those of the equity markets. Secondly, portfolio diversification. Private equity markets have exhibited historically low correlations to public markets, as well as, at the end of the day, what I think is probably the biggest one is the tax advantages of using a retirement account to invest in these high-yielding assets. When private equity investments are held in a tax-advantaged IRA, already compelling returns can be even more rewarding. There's obviously the potential for higher returns. Private equity can deliver higher returns than public equity markets, and you always want to grow your private equity portfolio tax-deferred if possible, or even better, tax-free within a Roth. Private equity and direct versus indirect. There are two primary ways that a self-directed IRA can invest in private equity. Either number one, investing directly into a company, a startup, for an example, or various angel investments as well. Another strategy is investment in a fund, whether it be a feeder or be a direct private equity or a fund that will wrap up multiple assets, such as within Breakaway, if you wanted to create an LLC where you wanted to have maybe 5 of your friends participate at a $10,000 commitment, you could put together a LLC that you could actually all be a member of, or your IRAs would be members of, if you will, which could then, at the underlying asset, invest into a private equity, or either one private deal or multiple private deals, which makes a lot greater simplicity in minimizing the amount of participants on the cap chart for the sponsor, as well as minimizing the amount of fees that each client would pay. Prohibited transactions and fraud issues, always the fun topic. What am I allowed to do, and who can I do it with? As far as disqualified parties go, any lineal or descendants of their spouses are typically prohibited. So you, your spouse, grandma and grandpa, those types of folks are all disqualified parties. Funny enough, your brother, cousins, they're all allowable as far as being able to either participate in a deal or to be able to lend or borrow from that party. Disqualified transactions or disqualified types of assets or transactions. Directly within Publication 590 from the IRS, they clearly state what is actually disqualified, which we've put up here in front of you. All collectibles, life insurance products, and viatical settlements. It's never a good idea to bet on death with your retirement accounts. S corporations, general partnerships, as well as auction transactions. So going back to the unique asset slide at the beginning, you can really see how you can pretty much invest in just about everything except the things that are on this actual list right here that we're staring at. Due diligence is always a very important step when investing just investing in general. So what are a few things that we should take a look at with respect to due diligence? Self-directed investors are responsible for evaluating all potential alternative investments, and it's important to ask the relevant suitability questions from the outset to detect any potential investment fraud. Some examples: what is your typical investment philosophy? Does this investment match my investment goals? How will this investment make money? What are total fees to purchase and maintain? Is the company making money? What are specific risks? So there are a whole slew of number of due diligence types of questions that are always great to go over. And typically, an advisor or family office might be able to help you out with that with respect to due diligence. Choosing an IRA custodian. Not all IRA custodians are the same. A lot of custodians will say they're custodian when they're actually an administrator or a facilitator. So it's really important to do your due diligence on which custodian that you use, that they're actually a true custodian, and not just either an administrator or facilitator, because it will impact the amount of fees that you pay at the end of the day, because they're all multiple parties. It's very important to have a custodian that's an actual custodian itself. So thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. If you have any questions moving forward down the road, please feel free to reach out directly and ask for Travis Majors, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you for your time.